Hello everybody, today I'm going to be talking to you about credit cards. Why you should get one, why you shouldn't, when you should, when you shouldn't. So the point of today's video, I have a friend currently who is attempting to build his credit score. He just turned 19 and he's having a little bit of difficulty deciding which card he wants and conversely also getting that card. So I know credit cards can be a little bit tricky for people who haven't really dipped their toes into the water at all and don't really have too much of an idea of what they want to do, how they want to do it, what they want to go for, who they want to go with, stuff like that. In general, the basic rule for your first credit card is you want it to be a credit card that you have for a really long time, generally one that you don't have to close. And this is because your credit score, one of the factors that they look at is the length of your oldest account. So if you start up, let's say when you turn 18, you get your first credit card, you keep that card until, let's say theoretically, until you die, and just keep it active by doing minimal payments on it, maybe week's groceries, stuff like that, nothing too fancy, nothing too big. So you go ahead and you keep that active. By the time you're 68, that card is going to be 50 years old, and the length of your oldest account is going to be 50 years. So that's going to be a really big boost on your credit score. It's going to shoot your numbers way up into the big 700s, early 800s, stuff like that, depending on if other aspects of your credit score are not bad. So that's one thing when you want to look at credit cards. So when you're looking at that, one way that you can decide is whether or not the card has any annual fees. Because if it has an annual fee, then that's a dollar amount that you have to pay out of your pocket every single year just to keep that card active. To be able to spend someone else's money, you have to not only pay them interest, you also have to pay them just for having the account, having the card that you're paying with. I think that's a little bit of a steal for cards that don't have like super low interest rates. For cards that have really high ones, I think it's kind of ridiculous that people would apply for those ones that have super high interest rates and an annual fee. Normally it's a trade-off, one or the other. If you have that annual fee, you don't also have that super high interest rate. So when you're looking at interest rates, generally there are a couple really good cards that people like to go with. The general standard, at least for me, when I got my first credit card when I turned 18, was that 19. When I turned 19, I got my first credit card. I think mine was it was an 18 to 25%. So depending on my usage, it would be anywhere within that, and also the length of the account. I think it started 18% for the first 6 months and then jumped up to 25 or something, based on how much I utilized my credit line. That's another thing that you actually have to look out for. So your credit line limit. So normally when you first get a credit card, they're going to give you a limit that you're able to spend on that card. Generally it's $500 to $1,000 for people who are just starting out, first getting their very first credit card. It does depend a little bit on your annual income, how much you spend, your habits, and all that, which the credit card company is really good at figuring out when you first apply. So the way that I've heard a couple different things as far as what you want as far as credit utilization of your credit line. Generally, what I have heard and what my credit score has reflected is that a revolving 30% utilization is the best way to go, just because that shows to the credit companies that you are using that credit that they're giving you, you're using their money, but you're also paying it back. So you're not just letting that 30% jump up to 60%, then 90%. You're using it 30%, and then when that bill comes around, you're paying all of it off. And then you're using 30%, and then when that next bill comes around, you're paying all of it off. And with this, you're actually going to end up paying $0 for having the card, because there's no annual fee, and you're actually going to pay nothing in interest as well. So the interest only comes around if after, I believe it's 28 days after you get your bill, for most companies, then they start charging interest on the amount that you haven't paid. even if you have paid their minimum balance, their minimum required amount for that bill, the minimum required amount is just a way for them to get you to be paying them money and not just sitting on the money that you owe them. But yeah, they're still going to charge you interest on the amount you borrowed from them, even if you have paid that minimum fee. So it's best to just pay off the entire amount in the bill that they send to you. That way you're not paying any extra money just for spending money, and you're still getting all the perks from a credit card, such as that revolving 30% utilization, which builds your credit score, length of your longest credit card, which builds your credit score, good history of paying your bill, which raises your credit score, and just in general, having access to all those benefits, such as cash back, airline miles, cash advances, stuff like that. All of that stuff you're able to get with a credit card. Most credit card companies are pretty good at shoving their benefits front and center, because the credit card company with the most appealing benefits is more likely the one that the customer is going to go with. So if you want to go ahead and just look through a bunch of different credit cards, that's good. I have a couple that I recommend personally. First, if you're starting off for your very first credit card, one that I recommend is a secured credit card. So the way this works is you just go ahead and pay the credit. Sometimes it's the credit limit, sometimes it's just a standard deposit, around $500, depends. You pay a deposit to the credit card company, and then you're able to use that credit card and just pay the amount. And the credit card company doesn't have to worry, because even if you pay your full credit limit and you can't pay them back, you already paid them. And it is a deposit, so eventually they're going to use that deposit to pay off your card, which is just you paying off your card with a couple extra steps, or they're going to go ahead and just give you your deposit back. So that is a secured credit card, really, which is just a much simpler way for a lot of people to get their very first credit card, because the credit company doesn't have to worry like, oh, this person doesn't have a credit score, they don't have any open accounts, they don't have any credit score at all, really. So it's just a way to put the credit card companies at ease, and so long as you don't miss any payments, you pay the entire amount of the bill they give you, which you shouldn't be spending money if you can't pay it back. That's a talking point. You should be mature enough, we should all be mature enough to know that you shouldn't be spending stuff that you don't have, because that's just a way to fall further down into debt, and that's not good at all. So a good way to decide which cards you want to get, there is the Citi double cash card, double cashback card. You get a certain amount of, like a percentage, 1 or 2% off of every purchase that you make. So it's kind of like a discount card that you can use absolutely everywhere, because Citi is the one that's paying that extra 1 or 2%. Another one, the first one that I actually got was the Discover card. Mine was actually the student card, so I didn't have to actually go with a secured card, even though it was my first card, just because for students it's a little bit different. But even if you're not a student, I would just recommend and go with that secured card, just because it's pretty much the only way you're going to get that first credit card really easily without having to deal with a super high, exorbitant interest rate, which even if you did get that, you shouldn't have to actually deal with that. I would be fine with a credit card company that has a 2,000% interest rate, because I pay my credit card amount on time. Every time they give me the bill, that's the first thing I do. I just go onto my account and just pay that full amount of the bill. They never charge me a penny of interest, and I'm building my credit. All right. I'll go ahead and insert a list of credit cards in the description of the video that you can go check out. They're really good ones, and happy credit building.